What's up everybody, BigSweetC here with got a special little video for you today. As you know, I've been playing through Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and if you haven't gotten a chance to yet and you're interested, the last video that I put out was actually a review of it, so definitely check that out because I have thoroughly enjoyed this one. It's actually probably going to be my favorite by the time I actually finish it, as long as they don't totally wreck the story at the end of the game. Which is hard for me to say because I've always been a huge fan of Assassin's Creed 3. So this one being maybe better than that, and I'm not going to say that it is because it's hard for me to finally just sit down and pick one, has been really special. So, but it always fascinates me, these games, because they do stick to their storytelling arc for the most part. Obviously, it's different locations, different people, different religions, that kind of thing, but they always kind of stay true to their core of assassins versus the Order. In the case of Valhalla, the hidden ones versus the ancient ones. And I love this idea that they stick to it because it really relates to a lot of geopolitical ideals that we deal with in today's society. Because we can boil this down, it's not necessarily Assassin's Creed versus the Order. It's the idea of manifest destiny. And this is why I like it so much. So what is manifest destiny? Manifest destiny was coined in 1845 when the United States decided that it was deemed by God, our Creator, that we need to spread our people and our culture and our beliefs to everyone in the North American hemisphere. And for the most part, it's actually worked out pretty well. You know, Canada, greatly influenced by us. Mexico, greatly influenced by us. A lot of Latin America, greatly influenced by us. But you can kind of see that there are still some twerkings here and there. For instance, Venezuela, we have sanctions on them because they want to be socialist. Cuba is a place that you used to be able to go to for about a half a day, and now you can't go back. And we're still having this trade embargo with them, right? And so not completely everything has been taken over by the idea of this manifest destiny, but it hasn't stopped the United States from, we'll say, enlarging this ideology, so to speak, you know? So they took over all of what we know as the United States. They expanded that to all of North America and most of South America. And so the next rational conclusion, if you're in a society like the United States, where you have this grand ideal in yourself, would be to then spread it to the other hemisphere. And that's really what Manifest Destiny has come to today. Now, in the games, it's essentially the exact same thing, right? You have what you could call the one side, the assassins, and the other side, the ancient ones, the hidden ones versus the ancient ones. They both have their ideal, their ideology of how they want the world to be. Now, a lot of it seems to like boil down to free thinkers versus authoritarians, but it's more than that, right? Because even the hidden ones are authoritarians. They want you to know that a free thinking society is the only way to live. They don't come from the understanding that some people prefer to the law and order of things. They just want to be told what to do and go about their lives. And so it's this kind of dichotomy where you're supposed to want what the hidden ones want, but at the same time you never get any point of view from the ancient ones. You do get a little bit of it in Assassin's Creed 3 when you play as I forgot his name, Nathan Hawthorne or something like that, Nathaniel Hawthorne, whatever the dad's name is that you start off playing as. He's actually a member of the Order. And then the rest of the game you play through as his son, who clearly sides with the Creed instead. But and so it kind of boils down to this: you have one or two options. Well, if you relate that to Manifest Destiny and how it leaves today, you have two clear-cut hegemonies, superpowers. You've got the United States, which is the only true superpower, and then you have Russia. And the reason I say Russia is not a superpower is not that they don't have nuclear weapons, they do, but the truth is they don't have a global influence like America. The United States is the only true superpower in the world, and for a superpower to work, you need a supervillain. For us, the US, that supervillain is Russia. We boil it down to capitalism versus communism, democracy versus communism. Truth is, Russia is a democracy as well. You know, they're not as free market capitalist as the United States is, but they are also a capitalistic democracy. They have a little bit more rules and regulations than the United States do, but the two ideologies are actually very, very similar. Which brings us to today. I'm assuming you guys have heard that Russia has invaded Ukraine. Now, I use that term very lightly because textbook definition of an invasion would not necessarily fit what Russia has done to Ukraine. First of all, they're only attacking military bases, as far as I can tell. I know they're technically headed to the capital city, but they haven't moved the convoy in like 2 or 3 days. Now, people are, and we'll get to it in a second, but depending on what news you're reading, it's going to sound a lot different coming out of my mouth than it is out of theirs. But you can't really consider this an invasion if you go by the textbook definition. Because if that were the case, the United States would still be invading Iraq right now. Yes, we've ended our combat missions, but we still have 2,500 service members. Who do you think service members are? You know, like, it's not, oh, hey, we got this dude off the street, he's a service member. No, they're there to make sure that the outcome of Iraq is the outcome the United States wants and not necessarily what Iraq wants. I brought up Venezuela earlier. You know, most of some of the Southern America has bent its knee to the United States. Venezuela is one of the few that aren't, and so we immediately hit them with sanctions. We stopped allowing medicine and food to come into their country, and we're trying to starve their people. That way they get so upset with the current president that they boot the president so we can install this guy named Juan Guaido, because he is favorable to us. And so, depending on your definition, the United States does not have any clear authority to condemn what Russia has done, because everything that Russia has done in the last week or so has been done or is being currently done by the United States. And so for the US to call it an invasion and the Western media to kind of whitewash what is really happening, and we'll get to that in a second, this is all part of our current day manifest destiny, right? We've essentially accomplished most of what we wanted to accomplish, and that was to make Russia look like the bad guy and everybody look to us to be the superhero. That's what we want. That is our whole design system, and that is why the military-industrial complex runs everything from head to toe. Any foreign affairs that are done in the name of the United States is directly tied to what the defense contractors want from us. Has nothing to do with who you vote for or what the people that voted for these people want. Everything has to do with Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing. What the CEOs and shareholders of these companies want is what the United States does, specifically in foreign affairs. Now, the first bit of it was to make Russia look like the bad guy. Russia has come out and stated before they went into Ukraine that they are there to remove the neo-Nazi threat, which the Western mainstream media said was a false claim. But that's not true. In 2014, we backed a rebel group called the Oslov Battalion. They are the guys that are currently in power now, the Oslov Battalion. They were neo-Nazis. We teamed up with them, gave them arms and money to overthrow a democratically elected leader of Ukraine in 2014. Because that leader was friendly with Russia. Now, the Ukraine basically does nothing for the United States. They're not significant trade partners. We don't outsource work to them. We don't technically get a ton of Ukrainian immigrants to the United States. There's really no benefit for the U.S. to have influence in Ukraine. And that's why we're fighting in Ukraine. Because Russia has great influence over Ukraine. Ukraine used to be a giant member of the Soviet Union. Now, there's a bunch of other countries north of Ukraine and west of Russia that also used to be part of the Soviet Union that have now aligned with the Western Alliance. NATO, we call it. Since the beginning of NATO, we have been telling Russia that the purpose of NATO is to defend our allies abroad. We were just there to keep Russia out of moving any farther west. But we've continually added former Soviet countries to NATO, pushing our borders closer and closer to Russia. Now, if you've ever played the board game Risk, when one person puts 5 guys on a territory right next to yours, what do? You put 5 guys in that territory that he's sharing a common border with because you don't want them to attack you. It's the same thing here. This is a global game of Risk. We put all of our frontline troops up against Russia's borders to provoke Russia to do the same thing. Now, the crazy part is like everybody seems to think that, this is, I can't believe Putin would do this right now. Trump was so influential. He says all this stuff. Putin's saying all this stuff on Russian TV. That his whole move was because Trump praised him and told him to do it. Nobody attacked. Russia didn't attack anybody in the 4 years that Trump was president. If Trump really was the encouragement, why did he wait until Biden got into presidency? In 2014, Barack Obama was the president. Barack Obama and his VP, Joe Biden, they overthrew the democratically elected leader of Ukraine. Shoot, it was Bill Clinton that basically got Putin elected president back in the late 90s. Boris Yeltsin, the former president of Russia before Vladimir Putin, was very friendly with the United States. Boris Yeltsin. And when it looked like he was going to lose the election, he went to Bill Clinton and asked for help. Said, hey, can you recommend us to join the G7 summit, making it the G8, the group of 8 nuclear powers? Because technically, we only acknowledge 7, even though Russia is a nuclear power. What did we say in return? Can't do it, bro. Can't do it. But you know what? We'll tell everybody that they should do it. And it won't matter that I can't publicly say that we're allies. Now, Yeltsin went on to win that election. But that win was then tainted by the presence of the United States, which led to the upheaval of Boris Yeltsin and the election of Vladimir Putin. Putin ran on the campaign that, hey, U.S. is in our borders. They've bought and paid for your president. We need to get him out of there and put a nationalist in. And that's exactly what he ran on, and that's exactly how he ran. He won. He's been controlling Russia ever since 2000, I think. He's been in power for like 20 years. And you can call it what you want it, you know? He wins every election. Now, according to the US media, it's because he cheats all the time. We do that too. In 2016, we ran a Democratic primary that watched one guy who was filling hundreds of thousands of seats in stadiums across the country somehow lose to a lady that couldn't pack a gymnasium. People didn't want to see her that bad. Now, she had all the name recognition in the world. She had all the backing of the establishment. She had the Clinton Global Initiative, which, by the way, is how Russia got to be such an economic superpower when it comes to producing natural gas and oil. And then you have this election where the head of the DCCC, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, has come in and basically gives the election to one candidate over the other, regardless of the actual election itself. For her to get power, the guy before her had to step down. The guy before her, his name is Tim Kaine. Hillary Clinton picked Tim Kaine to be her VP. This is not rocket science. People out there in YouTube land are going to call this a conspiracy theory, but sometimes a coincidence is what it is. They call it Occam's razor. The answer is so simple that it's impossible to believe. But it's right there in front of your face. So we do it to our elections in our own country. We do it into elections abroad. Russia had all the backing that it wanted. This is the manifest destiny, because we need a villain. We need a villain so we can spread democracy. The United States manifest destiny is to basically control everything through the eyes of the world. More fake news. Everybody's favorite streamer, Vosh, who is the dunciest of dunce dickheads I've ever fucking listened to. He's an awful, awful person who just spreads propaganda. And I mean that literally. There was a report that 14 Ukrainians told a Russian warship to fuck off, and that Russian warship murdered and slaughtered all of them. Now, that's not true. It's not. The only thing that's true is they told the Russian warship to fuck off. And then the Russian warship grabbed them, took them back to Russia, and they're just chilling. They're just chilling right now. They're perfectly healthy. They haven't been arrested or anything like that. They have their cell phones. It was just a completely made up story by the US media. And you've got these narrative clowns pushing that information like it's fact. Again, I've already talked about the Nazis that we helped, that we funded. The Azov Battalion are neo-Nazis whose goal in life is to eliminate every other ethnicity that's not them. That's what neo-Nazis are. That's what Nazis are. We back them. We gave them arms, we gave them money. And in 2014, they overthrew a democratically elected Ukrainian president. Right now, you can go on Amazon and buy t-shirts with their logo on it. I stand with Ukraine. The last time we backed rebel leaders was in Afghanistan. Who were they fighting? The Russians. Who was their leader? Osama fucking bin Laden. I'm sure you've heard of that name. He was the great leader, the great heroic leader of the Mujahideen. Didn't come back to bite us in the ass and nothing. We can definitely fly around from place to place, no big deal. We are now backing Nazis
We run a clean dark in Jorvik.
because we need a villain.
And yet here I find you
This is our manifest destiny.
This
This is what we do. We are the hidden ones. We pretend like we want freedom for all these people,
You have it all wrong.
but we only want freedom as long as you believe what we believe.
Shredded, you see.
Long as you believe what America tells you is true,
Someone with a firm yet steady.
then you're allowed to be free and simplistic. But if you choose a different path,
shit poet. But at least my question is
then you gotta go, my man. We gotta bring democracy to you.
Well, we all have our weaknesses.
There was another story, the ghost ship of Kiev. Allegedly, there was this Ukrainian air pilot fighter. Fighter pilot, sorry. Ukrainian fighter pilot. And in a matter of a couple of days, he shot down, I think it was seven stealth fighters. This would have been a world record. This would have been like literally the Top Gun of Top Guns. Turns out it's not true at all. No planes were reported shot down. It's a completely fabricated story, made up by the Ukrainian press and the Western media to make it look like they have heroes. There's been pictures of the current president of Ukraine, Zelensky, whatever his name is, wearing his armor, you know, his G.I. Joe getup, being out on the front lines. Those pictures that you're seeing are from 2 years ago. 2 years ago. They're not right now. Who knows where that cat is right now? Maybe he's in the embassy, and maybe he can stay in the embassy because Russia hasn't decided to actually invade. They claim they're there to free Ukraine of the Nazi influence. Maybe all we gotta do is say, hey, we're not gonna fund the Oslov Battalion anymore because they're neo-Nazis. Get them the f*** out. Maybe Russia just ends. So like, the beauty of Assassin's Creed to me is because it gives you like a clear-cut path, but it's not as clear-cut if you think about it. It really, really kind of showcases the society that we live in today. And that's one of my favorite things about the Assassin's Creed series. The whole franchise, from start to finish, has had this as its core principle, and it's brilliant to me. It's brilliant to me. And this is why I love video games, because they can do what a lot of movies, what a lot of newspapers, what a lot of TV shows, what they can't. Because America needs to breed manifest destiny. Needs to believe it so much to their bones that it usurps everything we do. This cultural ideology has to happen. But video games, only nerds and only losers play video games, right? That's the old cliche. Even though every streamer you see on Twitch is some Instagram model. Video games are allowed to tell a different story. Now, Assassin's Creed, in my opinion, doesn't necessarily go far enough, but at least they're consistent. And I just kind of wanted to kind of clear my head about some stuff, because I don't really know where I was going with this. I mean, I had an idea of how I wanted to philosophize on these games, but there's a lot of nonsense going on in the world today, and you got to be careful. You got to be careful. But if you know what you're up against, you are up against this unending need to spread American exceptionalism. If you understand what you're up against, you can learn to fight back. And that's the important thing. Remember, you can always fight back. And do yourself a favor. When you hear something that sounds ridiculous, look it up. Confirm that it's ridiculous. there are certain things that are unexplainable, right? Stonehenge is one of them. You get these rocks that are from 30,000 miles away or whatever, somehow all stood together, and there's literally nothing that could have, like, no machinery that could have helped them do it back in the day, right? So there are things that are truly fascinating because they boggle the mind. But usually what you hear through the Western media is a one-sided affair. So do yourself a favor, if you hear something ridiculous, double check. and keep on keeping on. If do me that favor though, if you did like this kind of rambling, incoherent philosophy, let me know in the comments below, because I got a lot of stuff to say, and I feel like saying it at some times. So let me know what you guys thought about this video. Do me that favor, hit that like, hit that sub, hit that notification bell so you know when I do drop a new one, and check out some of the other videos that we have on the channel. Plenty of stuff coming up. Elden Ring just got released. I'm loving that one. Destiny 2 just had year 5, I think, start, and my wife loves that game, so we'll definitely be playing more of that. And then in the next month or so, you got Triangle Strategy and Stranger Paradise, the Final Fantasy 1 reimagining. Plus, I got Metroid Dread, and I haven't even gotten a chance to jump into that one. So plenty of stuff coming up. Make sure you hit that sub button, and head on over to Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter, and follow me over there at BigSweetC. Either way, that's going to do it for this one. BigSweetC, that's me. Wishing YouTube, that's you. Wonderful day, night, morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it might be. As long as you're watching, I'm wishing you a wonderful watching time. Sweetness, signing off. Peace.